The Dolphins lost 28-6 last night against the Ravens on Thursday Night Football. And let's talk about it. I'm your host, Hunter Mulholland, and welcome to the Ride Home podcast, where we will discuss anything and everything Miami Dolphins. Last night, the Dolphins lose in embarrassing fashion to the Baltimore Ravens, who get Lamar Jackson back. They start to get a little bit healthier. They start to look like the Ravens that we thought we were going to see at the beginning of the season. Obviously, their 2-5 start, their 1-5 start realistically, is not a indictment of what their season is going to become. They're a much better team, and they proved that last night when they came in and beat on the Dolphins for all four quarters. For the Dolphins, defensively, they held Lamar's passing attack in check except for the touchdowns. He only had 204 yards and 4 touchdowns, but that was the thing, that he found a way to find somebody on third or fourth down and really push the envelope, make the defense work, and they found their way into the end zone, which is forcing the Dolphins to run into an issue about trying to stay competitive defensively. They played really well defensively in the first half. I really do think that they looked better in the first half. They got some stops. It's hard to stop somebody from scoring when you cough the ball up on your own 7-yard line. You cough the ball up inside of your own 20. It's really tough to stop a team from scoring from there in a full-length drive. So there were some miscues. The Dolphins played better than what the box score says for the first half. And then they came out in the second half and they looked flat. They did not look like a team that wanted to be out there, wanted to compete. They fell behind. They gave up a score on the opening drive of the second half, making it a 2-score game. And it just kind of took over from there. Derrick Henry passed the century mark. He had 119 yards. No touchdowns. They stuffed him on the goal line, which is an improvement. Most of the time, I feel like the Dolphins would give up the 1-yard rush to a power back like Henry. Last night was very frustrating to watch. There were a lot of miscues. The 2 fumbles, the key fumble being the fumble inside of your 20, where you give the Ravens the ball back after you just got a stop. You went down on the first drive, on the opening drive, you kick a field goal, you get a stop, you get the ball back, and then inside of your own 20, giving the Ravens the ball in the red zone, you fumble the ball instead of going back out of bounds. Taj Washington had the first down if he just ran out of bounds. But he cut back to where there were 4 Ravens, and then the ball popped out. That's a mistake. You don't have to try and break open every single time that you get the ball in your hands. Pick up the first downs, create methodical drives, and you're going to start to see that the defense can actually get rested, and you're going to start to see that you're going to put the rhythm together with your offense. And then the 4th and 1 false start. I don't think that Larry Borum nearly got ripped enough probably for that. That is a key moment. Not only do you false start on 4th and 1 when you're going for it, and you know you're going for it, but also then it turns around and your kicker misses the field goal. And so you put no points up on the board and you give the ball back to the Ravens. And I wanted to jump into something that Tua said in his postgame. Tua was asked the 4th and 1 where offensive lineman Larry Borum was called for a false start. What was your understanding of what happened there as far as? Tua's response was, I would say with the Ravens fans, it maybe got a little muffled with my cadence and the crowd noise. So we kind of talked about that on the sideline and got that corrected. First off, it's a home game. The team is struggling, which is why the fans are not showing up. So now you're running into the issue where opposing teams are filling up your own stadium. So now every game is going to feel like a road game, and it's only going to get worse the remainder of the season. You've played 4 home games. You've only played a half of them so far. So it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. Next week when the Bills come to town, it might be majority Bills fans, which is never a good thing. But you know what? The team's 2-7. The ownership and the front office have shown that they don't care. They don't seem to care. So, is it really on the fans for not showing up to a team that's 2-6 and is struggling, and the front office? Chris Grier got fired finally. Well, not really fired, but mutually parted ways. Finally gets his job taken away from him. But a few years ago in the offseason, he said he thinks the fans are more worried about the offensive line. And look at this. Look at the offensive line. Jonas Savaianai is getting backed up into his own quarterback's lap every play. There's a free rusher every play. That is an issue. That is an issue with the Dolphins' offensive line right now. You cannot let a free rusher on your quarterback and expect for good things to happen. Last week against Atlanta, they looked good. The offense looked good. They looked together. They limited penalties. They limited mistakes, and they went out and they beat up on a team that they should probably beat up on. But if you're looking at this team during the offseason and saying that, oh, we want to be in the playoffs, we want to go get a playoff win. Okay, cool. Do something about it. Don't sit there and run it back again with a team that missed the playoffs last year. You have to make changes. You have to adjust. You can't just throw everything together and say, well, this worked 3 years ago. It's not how it works. The NFL is ever evolving. And when you lose a guy like Tyreek Hill, you have to make adjustments quick on the offensive side of the ball. There has to be adjustments. And defensively, a defense that looked good last year under Anthony Weaver does not anymore. The defense looks horrible. Last night, I was getting frustrated watching the amount of arm tackles instead of wrapping him up. The amount of times that Lamar Jackson slipped a sack because the Miami Dolphins edge rusher decided that he wanted to just try and dive at him and grab at him with his arms, and then Lamar Jackson slips out because he's Lamar Jackson and he does that. You got to wrap up. And it happened again on a third down play. They went for a diving arm tackle, and they picked up the first. So there's a lot of frustration with the Dolphins. There's a lot of frustration in the locker room, I would assume, because you're 2-7. So something's got to change. They finally get something done with Chris Grier. They mutually part ways. They say that Adam Schefter reported that Mike McDaniel is expected to be the head coach of the Dolphins for at least the remainder of this season. So maybe that rolls into next season. Maybe they get a GM that knows what he's doing and makes some changes and get something moving in the right direction. But it's not enough right now. The team is looking at draft boards now. You're looking at the draft standings. The team isn't, maybe the team isn't, but the front office definitely is. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. What are you going to do? Are you going to end up picking in the top 5, or are you going to put some stuff together down the rest of the season, down the stretch of the season, get some sort of momentum into next year, and then hopefully at that point what pieces can stay and what pieces can't, and then you have to make a move if you need to move up in the draft, or you have relatively good scouting on your pick slot. Moving on to Mike McDaniel's presser yesterday. Couple updates on some injuries. We'll start with that before we get into some of the more frustrating things to talk about. When asked about Chop Robinson and how he went into concussion protocol, McDaniel said, yeah, concussion protocol, that's all I got. So Chop's got 10 days to get out of it. Probably misses next week just because they need to. The league is very, very picky about when you can and cannot come out of concussion protocol. Depends on how bad the concussion is. Depends on how much he hurts. But I did see him on the broadcast walking away with a towel over his head, kind of shunning his eyes from the light. Ollie Gordon, Rasul Douglas, and Efata Melifonwu. Ollie was able to. This is coming from Mike McDaniel. Ollie was able to. He would have been able to go back into the game. The other two, he'll find out more tomorrow, which is today. So he'll find out more today. There might be some news coming out after this show. So he also, I want to go back to the fans because I don't blame them. Do not blame them one bit for booing. This is frustrating football to watch. Fans were booing and the broadcast shows fans with bags over their head. How do you personally take this loss and where this team stands right now at 2-7? McDaniel responded with, yeah, personally, you don't want to dictate the terms. You want to fix stuff. And yeah, it sucks. That sucks. All of that does. But I think it's pretty consistent formula of fans enjoying winning. And so our expectation is that we have to do the work and do the right things for fans to enjoy the experience. And unfortunately, we didn't do that tonight. So we got to get back to work to give them something to cheer about. Pretty cookie cutter response for a head coach in that scenario. Yeah, obviously the fans want to win. The fans are frustrated. The fans are pissed off. The fans flew a banner saying fire Grier and fire McDaniel during a home game earlier this year. So, and probably more, but you have to, if you're the coach, you have to try and build something. And right now he is the coach, and he, according to Schefter, he's going to be the coach until the end of the season. So there's no changes coming yet. Now, when the season ends and everything's done, and if this team still sits with less than 5 wins, which is probably where they're headed, maybe something happens. But right now, next season, you're going to enter this vicious cycle of, okay, now we've got a new GM. We've got a coach and a quarterback that were not picked by the GM. Is that going to work? It kind of depends on how the end of the season goes, and depends on what happens with the draft pick and where the pick is going to be. There's not a great quarterback in the draft. There's not a guy that stands out to me as a top 5 pick. So, and with Tua's cap hit, well, maybe he does ride it out 1 year and see what happens. But you're going to enter this vicious cycle, and you don't want to. You don't want to be in this cycle. I mean, look at the Bears. The Bears have been doing it for years, where they have a quarterback, a coach, and a GM that are all coming in on different timetables. So none of them actually come in at the right time with each other. Who knows? They could have figured it out with Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams. They might have finally found it, but jury's still out. So, but they got stuck in that cycle. You do not want to get stuck in that cycle again, because the Dolphins were there not too long ago, before Grier showed up 10 years ago. So, lots of frustration between the Dolphins and their fans. It's not a good sign to have the fans having bags on their head if you're the coach. So it's really going to come down to, does Mike McDaniel get things back onto the right track? And it could. You really don't know, but right now it does not look that way. It doesn't look like it's going in the right direction. It looks like he's headed out at the end of the season. But he could end up finding some sort of rhythm. They could get back to what they did against the Falcons, against some of the lesser opponents, and then you turn into this spot where, okay, now it's time to go. Now it's time to find out what we have. Find out what pieces are going to be here in the future. Is Jalen Waddle going to be here in the future? I think he should be. He's the best wide receiver on the roster, assuming that Tyreek Hill is not coming back next year. Is Devon Achane a part of your future? Is Ollie Gordon a part of your future? Should be. Those three players should be. The biggest question mark is, what do you do about the offensive line in the winter? And what do you do about the quarterback situation? Then what do you do about the defense? Because there's a lot of guys on the edge that can get to the quarterback but can't finish the job. Jalen Phillips missed a couple of sacks last night. And with Chop Robinson out, it's going to be on those guys, those veteran guys, to really step up and be a part of it and fix it. Do you use Judon as trade bait before the deadline? Is that something that you do? Do you trade Matthew Judon and try and get some picks back, or get somebody that you like back? I don't think you're going to get anybody that you necessarily love and somebody that's going to be a perennial starter for you, but I think that you could get you could get a pick back that is valuable to you, considering that you're entering this phase of, we either have to hard reset and go full rebuild mode and trade everything, or we have to just try and find the next step and retool and pick out positions that we don't like the production that we got, go fix it and see what happens next year. There's a lot of spots that you could pick out, but you got to pick like one or two or three. You got to pick two or three spots that, okay, this is bad. This is the worst on the team. If we get this, does this stay better? Does this get better? So the future of the Dolphins is bleak. It's not good. It's very bad. The positives, Tua found new tight end Greg Dulcich 5 times for 49 yards. Or not new, but newer tight end. 5 times for 49 yards. Jalen Waddle, 6 receptions, 82 yards. No touchdown. He had a long one wiped out on a questionable tripping call. That had me running hot last night, that play, because that's another one that kind of flips the game script. That takes points off the board. That does a lot of different things. You have your running back slip and fall, and then you get an intentional tripping call on a play that puts Miami well within striking distance. And it's frustrating. The other thing is that I would say is a positive. Achane, 14 carries, 67 yards. Ollie Gordon, two rushes for 6 yards. The second leading rusher on the team was actually Malik Washington, who had 13 yards on 3 carries. Ollie Gordon has the ability to be this perfect pairing for Devon Achane. Achane has the speed and flash, while Ollie Gordon has that more power. It kind of reminds me of Gibbs and Montgomery and how they pair together and how they work together. So I'm by the end of the season, I would love to see those two kind of explode and complement each other and be different parts of each other's game. But it kind of depends on how is Ollie's ankle. If he says he could have gone back in, perfect. That's awesome. But what is the future for the Dolphins running back room? Look like Achane had 39 yards receiving on 6 catches, so he's still active in the passing game. He had a long of 19, which shows off his explosive ability. And it kind of pushes the boundary of, okay, well, where does this lead? So the Miami Dolphins had 5 tackles for loss. Had 1 from each of Tyrell Dodson, Rasul Douglas, Jalen Phillips, Matthew Judon, and Benito Jones. 2 sacks, 1 by Phillips, 1 by Jones. Dolphins got sacked twice. Tua threw a pick, that late pick in the end of the game, heaving it downfield, and the Ravens come away with it. That seals the deal. Tua now stands alone at the top of the leaderboard in interceptions, and that's frustrating to see, especially considering last year he only threw 7. Granted, he missed time last season. But the future for the Dolphins rests in what does the new GM think about Tua? What does the new GM think about Mike McDaniel, and where is the future lying? Does the new GM like a quarterback? Does he like a pairing with a head coach? I think you have to pair the two together perfectly and create some sort of culture. If the Dolphins were to move on from Mike McDaniel, my biggest want in a coach is somebody that leads, somebody that is maybe not a player's coach like McDaniel is, maybe not necessarily the offensive guru that McDaniel is supposed to be, but somebody that goes out there every single week and leads a group of men out to battle and has a culture of, we are going to fight for everything that we have, and creating this sort of authoritarian coaching staff together to make sure that the players don't run the locker room, because when the players run the locker room, everything goes south. So that'll be all today. I can't talk too much more about this game. It's going to make me go insane again. But we will be back next week previewing the Dolphins and the Bills. Till then, I am your host, Hunter Mulholland. This has been the Ride Home Podcast. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I will leave the links down below. Follow me on Twitter at Hunter Mulholland4. I'll also have that link down below. And if you want to read all of McDaniel and Tua's pressers, I will link those down below as well. Until next time, fins up. It's very, very sad, fins up. But hopefully next week is a happier week for Dolphins Nation.